What up, guys? Welcome to Harry Dating Convos. This is the show where you learn how to date in a way that's going to be beneficial to your everyday dating life and to help you better understand women. I'm your host, as always, Harry Wilmington. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about the situation that's happening whereby this guy has been dating this girl, and come to find out, for the 2 years that he's been dating her, he feels as though she's been kind of neg hitting him, giving little jabs and insults here and there. And so he finally voices his concern, and now things are getting better, but he's already lost interest. He's thinking that, well, yeah, she changed, but like, is it because she changed for me or because she felt that she had to, yada, yada, yada. But I think this guy's situation really speaks to how communication and dialogue and styles of that can clash when you first start dating somebody, and the importance of trying to address those things, because there's something to be said for, as guys, we want stuff to be even keel all the time. And so when things start to pop up here and there, it can be very hard for us to voice those things, and it can result in the kind of situations that this guy's going through. So we're going to talk about his situation, plus I'm going to be answering any questions you guys have. And I have another situation I'm going to talk about that's based on a guy that I've been coaching in my Get Girls Academy, which when you join that academy, you get unlimited email access to me. So if you're looking for a way to get coached that can actually benefit you as you're dating, then I highly recommend considering checking out the Get Girls Academy. But with all that said, we're going to get into today's show. This is the Harry Dating Convos. And as always, this show is brought to you by my website, harrywilmington.com. You can go there now to check out my various ebooks, check out the kind of coaching we have, and check out my main program, which you will learn about now. Hey there, thanks for tuning in to Harry Dating. Wrong one. As always, this show is brought to you by Get Girls Academy, my exclusive program designed to help you attract, date, and keep the women you want. As a member, you'll gain access to proven strategies, insider tips, and bi-monthly group coaching sessions where we tackle your biggest questions live. Click the link in the description to learn more and join today. So yeah, check that out at the website. The Get Girls Academy has been able to help a lot of guys as of late be able to quelch some of their anxiousness, be able to figure out how to communicate better with women, and has actually landed people into relationships. And speaking of that, I actually have an update on a guy that's in my program. So this guy, he had been in a bit of a situation because, as far as he understood, the girl he was with said that they were exclusive, or she felt that they were exclusive, but she didn't explicitly say that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. And so the next time they met up, she was wanting to take him to a function with a certain group of friends. And he said, well, but I only do that with people that I'm in a relationship with. And again, her understanding was they were in a relationship. She got her feelings hurt about that. And then she kind of ghosted for a little bit. And so this guy's in my academy, and he was very anxious about that. He was like, what should I be doing? Should I be reaching out? What did I say wrong? What's going on? And so, part of what I do as a coach is I help you see situations in ways that you may not see them because you haven't been through them. I've been through a lot. So a situation where a woman gets upset with me because there's a communication misunderstanding, been through that. I know how to handle it. So I kind of coach this guy into okay, these are things to do. These are things not to do. Here's where you kind of went wrong, but in the grand scheme of things, you didn't go wrong. But the main lesson that I gave this guy is that sometimes when there's a miscommunication, or the woman feels like there was a mistake done that was maybe on your part, that sometimes in the moment when they're feeling that, they're feeling as though you did something wrong. And there's going to be some times where you don't actually do anything wrong. And those are the cases where the worst thing that you could do as a guy is apologize. You apologizing for a situation where you weren't causing any harm, you weren't actively saying things to down this person or degrade them or talk about them or their family or whatever. Sometimes just women get in their feels because when a misunderstanding happens, they also get into their head about what this means. If she wasn't able to read you as a partner, does this mean that she's not got a good read on you in the first place? Or could she be tripping and then she just likes you so much that the idea of you guys not being in sync with each other really hurts her feelings? Like sometimes women will go through that, and you have to let them feel the thing. You have to let them sit with themselves and cry about it and worry and wonder. And then through all of that, they come to their own conclusion that, you know what? I care about this guy. He seems to care about me. So I'm guessing that whatever I was feeling, he probably wasn't intentionally trying to do that. And maybe I was just in my feels about a thing. You know, maybe it was that time of the month. Maybe my hormones were doing a thing. And so therefore I'm the one that's tripping. But if you preemptively are like, I want to say I'm sorry and I want to apologize to her for whatever I did, even though I don't know, that starts to train your woman to only expect like really romantic behavior or apologies anytime, even whenever she goes out of whack. And what you don't want to do is train a woman to be the kind of person that's going to now use her emotions to manipulate you into doing or saying things when they're not warranted. And so, yes, women at times, whether they are doing it consciously or subconsciously, they're going to get emotional about a thing. You're going to disagree with them on a topic of conversation. And she's going to be like, is that your real reaction? And that's a subconscious test to see if you're going to be the man that stands up for your principles and is able to recognize that if you don't think that you were in the wrong about something, then you're going to stand on that and be like, I did nothing wrong. And if you need to feel some kind of way about that, you can. That's not going to change up the fact that I genuinely feel that I did nothing wrong. And there are times where, yes, women will feel upset about you for something that you did nothing wrong. It's kind of like I've had it at times, for example, where let's say I make a certain decision about something like, oh, I don't want to go to this certain thing because maybe I don't like the people there, or this isn't a good atmosphere to go into, and so I don't want to do it. And the woman with me might be like, but I want to do this thing, or how could you feel that, or blah, 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 should be totally fine. And I'll just be like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this thing, or this thing's wrong, whatever. And in the moment, they'll be like, oh, I don't like that, blah, blah, blah. And they'll go away and be mad. Cut to like 2 days later, they'll come to me. Okay, Harry, you know what? You were right. Or, oh, that thing that you didn't want to go to. Yeah, somebody got hurt there. So and that's the thing, is that women know that when they're in their emotional state, they can't trust themselves to always make good decisions or even feel that the reaction they're having is the right reaction to have in moments where they're overly emotional or hormonal or whatever. That's why they want to see guys that are able to not change their minds and not be so apologetic and be able to stand on principle when things go awry. Because outside of her, she knows that in real life, when things are coming to you and coming to you guys as a couple, that you need to be able to stand and say, this is right, this is wrong, I'm not doing this, et cetera, et cetera. And so that also comes to feelings. If she knows, if you're able to be manipulated by her feelings, then who's to say on her end that she doesn't think you can't be swayed by other people's emotions, you know? Like if she's able to make you apologize over some stuff you didn't do just because she starts crying, well, she's going to be thinking, what if his mom comes to him and starts giving a sob story? Or what if we have daughters and the daughters want to get over on him, but then it affects how they come at me? And so they might subconsciously test that on early just to see what you're going to do. And those are moments when you got to look at it objectively and say, this is stupid to be emotional over, and she's getting all mad at me for something that is effectively not a thing. And so I got to handle that. So yeah, so with this guy went through the situation. I told him, hey, like, you know, let her be in her feels. You did nothing wrong, so don't go apologize and don't be trying to reach out and say I'm sorry, do whatever. Like, just go about it. Next time you see her, because you're going to meet up with her at some point, just like let her talk and see what's what. And guess what happened? He saw her and they bantered for a bit. And then she brought up, hey, so we had a misunderstanding last week. And you know what? I realized, my bad, I was tripping. Oh my God, that's amazing. And then she's like, so we should, like, you know, discuss further, like, what this exclusive thing means. That's literally what I'm talking about, is that it makes no sense to guys sometimes, because we're thinking, if I'm feeling a thing, I should be able to logically talk it out. With feelings and with women in general, sometimes that means they need to sit with themselves to negotiate with themselves where they're at with the situation. And sometimes you being in the picture when that's happening is only going to make her feel like you're forcing her to come to the conclusion that you were right and she was wrong. And you can't do that all the time. Sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you can say, hey, babe, in the grand scheme of things, like you were wrong. I was one that was not tripping, and I want an apology. But sometimes when you're going through that kind of stuff where there's a miscommunication, women object, especially if they like you a lot, their brain's going to eventually convince them to side with you, but maybe they haven't been with somebody in a while that they've had to do that or had the feelings to want to do that. And so you got to let them sit with themselves and ponder and think and realize, you know what? I do like him. I miss him not being here. I miss him holding me and us talking to each other. And maybe I could have clarified some parts better. And that's what we want. We want women coming to you and being able to say, I messed up. Let's talk about it again. But hey, my bad. I'm sorry for what I did, And you don't get that if you're the one that's jumping in to apologize over every single emotional thing that she feels, because sometimes her feelings are not valid. And sometimes it really is facts over feelings. Like sometimes the facts of the situation, it doesn't matter how she feels about a thing, when the reality is what she feels is not conducive to what's going on, if that makes sense. So yeah, he was able to, from what I know, he was supposed to be meeting up with her and talking further about stuff like that. But yeah, that's what happened with that situation. So I was glad to be able to help that guy. And again, he was able to get that help because in the Get Girls Academy, you guys get unlimited email access to me. So if you're going through a situation, as you're trying to learn these principles, as you're trying to date, as you're trying to, go through a relationship, you can reach out to me and say, hey, Harry, this situation happened, or she said this thing. What's my next move? What is she thinking? Why does she react this way? And what can I do? And I'm able to help you with that stuff because, again, I have years of experience in the dating game. So I was glad to help that guy out. I'd love to help you out too. You can go to harrywilmington.com and check out the Get Girls Academy for that help. Hey, what's going on? If you got any questions in the chat, by the way, you guys can feel free to ask them and I will happily answer them during the show. Speaking of that, actually, before I get into the main show, there was a guy that left a comment on one of my videos, and I really wanted to get to it. I think it was this one right here. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. So this guy left a comment on one of my videos, and I did a video called How Women Tell You Y'all Are in a Relationship Without Having the Talk, where a woman will just say like, oh yeah, we're exclusive, or oh, I count you as my boyfriend already, And so he liked that video, but he said something that I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit. So he said, this is good stuff. There is another element to this when it comes to a woman assuming a relationship. She is assuming the relationship because you gave her boyfriend energy and did not intentionally state the direction of the relationship. It also points to the fact that you are a follower in the relationship and not the leader because you could not direct the course. She's only assuming what are we because you didn't tell her what you are with intention. Never be afraid to tell a woman the deal for fear she will leave. Give her the plan and let her make her own decision. Therefore, you're not deceiving or leading her on. Great job, Harry. So I think in a way, he's basically saying like he liked the video, but there's a part where he's saying basically that if a woman just assumes that you're in a relationship, it's because you weren't giving direction and you weren't giving intention. And I kind of want to dispel that a bit because for one, what I don't like about what people do in dating is this. Men and women assume that in order to be sure that the person you're going out with is actually wanting a relationship, you need to have a logical conversation on date 1 or 2 about, hey, so are you dating with intentions to be in a long-term relationship or are you dating just to play around? And the reason I hate that question is because realistically, neither person on a first date knows if the person in front of them prior to meeting them is going to be the person they go the distance with. And guys in particular actually are guilty of doing what this guy's talking about, going on date 1 and saying things like, so are you a guy that are you a woman that is going to be serving to your man? Are you the type of woman that just sleeps around with any guy? Or are you a woman that's all about like keeping your principles and hope not giving yourself out to everybody and waiting for one person? Or they'll just say straight out, so like, what are your intentions? Like, are you trying to look for a long term? Are you looking for a short term? Are you looking for a situationship? And I always think that is a dumb question because on the women's side of things, until she's able to spend more time with you and see consistency and build trust and establish various activities and bonding things with you, she doesn't actually know on date 1 if she has that thought or feeling about you. But when you ask that question, a woman's going to be thinking, he's already thinking about me in terms of being a girlfriend, which we think is a good thing. We're thinking that women want us to not play games and be honest and let them know, yep, I'm dating to have a girlfriend and I'm hoping you're going to be it. But that's where the pressure starts to be made for women because they need time to feel that out. And so when guys come to them on date 1, 2, or 3 and are like, so what are your intentions? And do you want a long-term relationship? One, the woman, by you bringing it up, the woman already knows that's where you're trying to go with her. And number 2, you're asking at a time where she's still in the infant stages of discovering you and figuring you out and adjusting how you are to what her feelings are in the moment. And you're asking her to make a leap about a prediction of where she sees you in 3 months when her feelings are currently at date 3. Your feelings after 2 or 3 dates are at the level that she thinks you should be at after having dated for 3 months and it's been 3 dates. So now that's when you get into women saying things like, well, I mean, it seems like you're rushing this and you're already there. And so I can't do a thing or whatever. Right. And so, yeah. And so it's not that you don't date with intention. You're dating in your head. You are dating with the intention, ideally, to have this person be the person. But you vocalizing that, if she's not there yet, it makes it too soon. And I know guys like, well, I should be able to vocalize it. Again, most guys are trying to vocalize this within the first month. Most women are feeling that in month 3. So of the 2 of you, sorry, guy, you got to go on her timeline. You just have to know that you're dating her, knowing that the things you're doing is hopefully going to lead to this being a relationship. Now, in terms of her end of things, the problem with setting intention or saying there's intention, again, she's not there yet, but also to the point, she's only assuming what are we because but also to the point, you not setting an intention doesn't mean that you're not still in control of how this happens. So for example, she comes to you and says, oh, he's my boyfriend. Great. She verbalized you're the boyfriend. She verbalized you guys are exclusive. Fantastic. But that doesn't mean that you have to completely agree to that in that moment. And this is what scares guys, like the guy I coached, where he came back later and said, well, when she wanted to have him meet a bunch of other people, and he was like, well, we didn't actually say we were like together. Like you said, you thought we were exclusive, but I didn't think that meant that we were actually boyfriend and girlfriend. And then she threw a hissy fit about that, right? And he didn't know how to handle that. But for me, I'd have been like, no, first of all, I wouldn't have been mad about it. I wouldn't have been anxious about it. If she started getting upset, I would just be like, no, realistically, like, I appreciate that you view me that way. And I would actually consider, based on how long we've been seeing each other, that I also feel like we're exclusive too. But I still think that needs to have a conversation because it's not, I don't want either of us to go into this like making assumptions or having expectations that the other person doesn't know about. Fair? She'd probably be like, yeah, I guess that's fair. Okay, great. So you're saying we're exclusive. I'm saying I feel like we could be that also. Let's sit down and talk about what that means. And then you are still in control of where this is actually going. You're not being a simp. You're not being a follower of her lead. You're being a follower in the sense of like, you now know based on her calling you the boyfriend that she wants you to be in that position. That's fantastic. But that is just because she bestows upon you that position doesn't mean in that moment that you have to actually say, I'm totally on board. You could easily say, wait. I appreciate the title. Let's back up and talk about what that looks like for both of us so we both get out of this what we want. And that's how you continue to keep control of the narrative while at the same time making her think that it was her idea to be in a relationship, even though you've been thinking about it since day 2, So I just wanted to dispel that and kind of talk about that so it dispels any kind of confusion that may be happening. Okay, so we got a question in the chat here. Hold on a second here. All right. We got a question in the chat, and the question goes, can you help me? Lately, I approach girls, we talk, and I let them have my number, so they chase, but it doesn't really work out. They don't call. I don't know why. Well, the reason is because you as the guy are supposed to be the one reaching out, and you just giving your number to a woman you met for the first time, the odds of you having her actually reach out to you are always low. I don't care if she says, oh yeah, let me get your number. I'd love to talk to you. Oh my God, I'm going to reach out. Women, even though they're going to be the ones that are eventually chasing you, you have to be the one initially to pursue them. Meaning you get the number and then you reach out and then you ask for the date. And once she's spent a decent amount of time with you by way of going on an actual date with you, that's when her feelings will start to build up a little bit, enough to where she may start to reach out. But in the beginning, this is how my program operates, right? I get the number, or if I'm on a dating app, I'll message first and we'll banter back and forth, and then I'll ask her out. I assume for the first 3 or 4 dates, all the reaching out to be connected is on me. I'm asking for the number. I'm asking to hang out. I'm asking for the dates. And then I'm asking for follow-up dates. Like, that's your job. So don't be fooled by, I gave a girl a number, therefore she's going to reach out, because there's going to be a part of her that still thinks like, here's the thing. Women, when they like you and have high interest, they're going to do all the things. All they're wanting you to do is reach out. And if you are like, oh, take my number, I can't even reach out, that already sets you up in their head as a lazy guy, and a guy that's not going to try, and a guy that they're going to have to try to get them Valentine's gifts and take them out and like pay attention to them. It all reads off of, are you giving them the number and saying, you reach out to me? And yeah, it works in the movies, great. But in real life, even women that are highly interested want to feel like the guy is on some level of pursuit. Now, again, as she builds feelings, she will do more of that work, but you need to give her the impression that you are also pursuing her to some extent. So stop giving out your number and start asking for numbers. When you're done with talking to a woman, hey, this is great, I got to go real quick. Have the head on the phone, say, boom, give me your number. Don't even ask as a question. Always do it as a statement. Hey, give me your number. Don't ask. As kids, we get taught, we learn very early on to just do what we're told to do. And so what the mistake a lot of guys make is thinking they got to ask women stuff. And I found a key secret to the psychology of dating and getting women to do what you want them to do is saying things as statements and not as questions. So instead of saying, hey, can I get your number? That's weak. Say, I'm about to jet real quick. Give me your number. People are just naturally inclined to just do what they're being told to do. So you'll get more numbers and you'll say, great, I'll hit you up. And then you leave, and then you wait 2 or 3 days, and then you hit her up and you ask her on a date. And that'll get you better results than you waiting for them to reach out to you. So hopefully that helps you out. Hey, Harry, I've been going through a drought, sadly, been hoping to get back into the swing of things. Well, I'm always down to help you out with that. If you can ask questions here, but also join the Get Girls Academy. I got programs in there that'll teach you all about the ins and outs of everything from online dating, how to approach women, how to contact them for a first date, what to do on a first date, how to do follow-up dates, how to get first kisses, how to get hookups, how to better communicate with them, what to do when, miscommunications and stuff arise in relationships. Like you need that level of education, and then you need to be able to do that repeatedly in order to have best results. And so the materials at the website, you can keep going back to if you forget a principle, or you're like, oh, he said something about this, but I got to know the exact way to do something, or I got to figure out in my own way, like how I can word this thing. Like we help you out with that. In addition to, like I said, with the program, you get unlimited email access to me. So if you have a question or some kind of coaching you need, you can reach out to me by way of email. I get back and respond within 24 hours to your question, and that can help you along the way, whether it's trying to get with a particular girl, trying to build confidence, trying to get rid of anxiety, other questions you may have. I'm able to help with that when you join the academy. So feel free to join. It's fun. All right. So with that said, let's get into the crux of today's show. So I saw this. Well, let me start back. Let me get my notes up here real quick. Okay. So I do a lot of shows talking about the dating side of things in terms of like trying to get into a relationship. And so what I'm starting to add more now to my shows is actually talking about once you're in a relationship, how do you maintain that? What are things that you need to do in order to have better relationships? And when two people are in a relationship and, one person's saying one thing or one person's doing a thing and the other person doesn't like it, how do you bring that up in a way that's going to get you the results that you want? And at the same time, help you learn about the kind of person your partner is. Because let's be real, guys, the hardest part of being in relationships is inevitably this person that you had the hots for, that you were darn near worshiping the ground of, is going to upset you, disappoint you, and do things that are not pleasing. That is going to happen in any relationship. I've dated women that were like cream of the crop women that I never had any major fights with. And even then, occasionally they might say or do a thing that, to be fair, they're unaware that the thing they're saying or doing is hurting my feelings or making me feel a certain way, and I got to address it. But I've learned that because early on, I was the guy that would not address stuff. If a woman hurt my feelings or said something, I would bottle it in, and I just assumed that we'd move past that and get to the next thing, and then they do something else, and I'd bottle that up, and I'd move it aside and get to the next thing, and then next thing I know, there'd be like 10 or 12 things that are stockpiling up, and they'd have no idea why I'm suddenly like getting silent on them or getting distant or ghosting or all this other stuff. And I just learned that wasn't a healthy way to act, because I don't want to be a stonewaller. I don't want to be a ghoster. I don't want to get rid of women that are good women, except for they pissed me off a couple times and I never said anything about it, And so I bring this up because this guy is going through a similar situation. So I'm going to read his story and I'll stop along the way because he made a lot of mistakes. And I think there's a lot of things that you as a guy can learn about being in a relationship with the woman from this guy's situation. So let's get into it. So the gist of his complaint is that he was dating this girl for 2 years. And during that time, she was doing what we call in the community here, neg hitting, which is when you're giving side jabs at somebody in an attempt to, like most guys in dating scenarios, they do it to kind of lower the woman's self-esteem so she doesn't think she's so high and mighty. I've never been a fan of that. I was just going to say, I've never been a fan of neg hitting anybody, friends, family, women that I'm dating, because I got bullied in 6th grade. I got teased like a whole year and it didn't feel good. So I just learned from that, people probably don't want to be teased or made fun of or whatever. So I've really done a good job at being able to like not do that as much. And my sarcasm is never based on like how odd or weird or strange the other person is. It's based on like other things outside of them. I like clever wordplay. I like, taking two concepts of words and putting them together. That's my version of being sarcastic, right? But anyway, so this guy says, he's 27. The girl he's dating is 24. And he says he's been dating his girlfriend now for about 2 years. He says, we met while working for 2 different companies. We gradually became friends over the course of about 6 months after she arrived as a fresh college grad. We had both been in bad relationships for a bit during that time, but both became single in the month or two leading up to one of our company Christmas parties, at which some moves were made, and we went home together. So they went home together and they did some stuff, right? So far, so good. Like, as far as I'm concerned, that's a win. He met this girl and they bantered for a bit and they hooked up. But now he gets into his head about it. And so he says, I'm not into casual dating, really. So keep in mind, this is after one hookup. I made clear I would be disappointed if we went from friends to a one-night stand and would like to take her to dinner. She accepted. We dated about a month longer until she dumped me abruptly after New Year's, saying she was, quote, overwhelmed and shouldn't have rushed into something new. Now, most guys, when they hear that, they think it's a bunch of crap. They think, how could she say that she didn't want to rush into something? What she's actually saying is, you, guy, rushed me into something. After one hookup, you were already like, well, I don't date casual. I don't just do hookups and do casual dating. So basically what she felt he was saying to her was, I don't date casually. So because we hooked up, we now have to date. And what have I told you guys time and time again about making women feel like they're forced to date you? Normally doesn't work out. But especially after the one hookup and then after the dinner, what my assumption is based on that he was doing the most, and that caused her to feel overwhelmed and rushed into a relationship situation. Whereas, let's say, I get it, guys. Some of you guys don't want to feel like if you hook up with a girl that she's just using you for sex. It's so amazing how backwards that sounds, because back early in the day, that's what women were concerned about. Women were concerned about, if a guy comes along and uses me for my hoo-ha down there, then, oh my God, he's going to leave me and I'm going to be the one that's emotionally distraught. And now somehow guys have bought into that narrative. And I'm just like, but I get it. Because again, I was a guy that waited until he was 23 to lose his virginity. And I just thought every girl I hooked up with, it was an attempt to try to get into a relationship. And so, yeah, I can see how if you're not a guy that's trying to actually have a high body count and actually cares about women, that you're thinking, I don't want to play games and I don't want to just have this be a hookup. And then subconsciously you're thinking, and it's probably going to hurt her feelings if she feels like I'm just using her for sex. So now I got to say that I actually want to date her, want a relationship. And it's fine to want to date, but to make her feel forced into this already feeling like a relationship based off of one hookup, that's where this guy was early on messing up. He would have been better having the hookup, waiting a week and just being like, hey, that was fun. Let's go hang out again. And then just doing that once a week versus being like, we got to hang out now. We got to go on a date. We got to do it. That now feels like it's a forced proposition, which is going to make it feel like it's not her decision. And then she's going to feel regret about that potentially, and then come to you later and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I feel rushed. And she's right, because based on how you were treating the situation, you thought you were doing good by trying not to just make it casual. And what you were doing was rushing her. So he says that. He says, so fast forward a few more weeks after that, we talk some. She tells me she can't stand not having me in her life. See what happens when you leave a girl alone? See what happens when you're not forcing your agenda? It's amazing how they will come to the conclusion themselves that they want you around, if you just give them time. So they dated for a month. She said, this is too much. I'm overwhelmed. And then what happens? A few weeks later, which is about like now the 2 or 3 month mark that they know each other, suddenly she's like, I still want you around. I still miss you. That's what would have happened had he not. So anyway, so he says, I tell her I've never connected with someone like her before, genuinely on my end, and we decided to try dating after all. So again, guys, I get that you guys like these women, but using flowery language and saying, oh, I've never connected with somebody. These are things that women hear them and are like, oh my God, he sounds like a woman. It's not wrong to feel those things. We just understand that there's a perception that's given about you when you're verbalizing these sweet nothings that you want to say to a woman that in this case is not even the girlfriend yet. All right. So just be mindful. You ain't got to say all that crap to be able to get her attention and to get her to want to date you. Anyway, continuing, he says, I give all that context because for a lot of the first year of our relationship, I was very insecure. I've never been dumped before. And being dropped out of nowhere by someone I really felt strongly about caused me to lack a feeling of stability. I eventually got over that via therapy and time, but after the first few months of dating, the criticisms start. So I will say this is where we get into the lessons of being detached and being indifferent, right? Because, hey, I've had women that I dated for a bit, and then they were just like, hey, whatever reason, I'm not feeling it. And my response was just like, oh, okay, well, best of luck to you. And if you change your mind, let me know. And, go away. They come back. They realize, oh, either they couldn't find anybody better or they really missed me. In either case, they come back. Hey, so I really missed you for all this time and blah, blah, blah. And at that point, I'm like, oh, okay, well, if you want to, we can this one go out again. Like, you paying? LOL. Like, but again, to be fair, I'm 43. I'm almost 43, right? It took me a while to get to that level where I wouldn't be so butthurt if a woman decided to come or go. Because now this woman came back and now he's like apprehensive thinking, but now I don't know if she's going to try to leave me again or just drop me out of nowhere. And it's because he's so attached to this woman and his feelings are so attached to the situation that when she left, it was like pulling the rug out from under him. And because again, guys get this thing of like, women can't do certain things. Like women would never just leave me out of the blue or they would never do X, Y, and Z. I don't put anything past anybody. Everybody is capable of doing all the things. So yes, even if you've been with a woman for 5, 6, 7 years, she is capable of dropping you at the side of the hat. And that's not fair, but I want to give you the understanding that you having this idealistic way of thinking about women is never going to help you. You thinking they'll never drop you, they'll never do anything that's going to harm you, whatever. That's really, I think, the biggest hurdle that guys have is that we grow up putting women on a pedestal and thinking so highly of them that when they do us wrong, we just can't believe it. It's a woman. She's sweet. She smells good. She's got boobs. How could she be the one to break my heart? And I've just learned that people are people, whether you're a man or a woman. And sometimes, people in general are going to be looking out for their best interest, man or woman. And so if a woman decides one day, you know what, my best interest is to not be with him, then they're going to leave and it's going to suck, but I don't want you to think it can't happen. That's why I try to teach you guys about being detached to outcomes, because if that does happen, what I don't want is for you to be like this guy where it rocks your world. And then when she comes back, you're even more anxious about it happening again. Like he should be like, oh, look, she went away for a couple of weeks. She decided she wants me. Fantastic. Great. Versus being like, oh my gosh, she chose me, but will she dump me again? Oh my God. Like, I don't want that level of worry to be on you. So that's why I say, if you know that that's possible, then you won't have it out of your head that it's not in the realm of possibility. Like it's a realistic thing that could happen. And then you'll just be like, well, I hope it doesn't happen. But if it does happen, I just know I gotta deal with it, but I'll get past it. So now he's in his head and he says the criticisms have started. So he says, right, this woman has had a tendency of regularly taking pot shots at my weak spots during our relationship. I'll give 2 examples. One is that she knows I'm a bit insecure about my height. Why does she know that? Like, real talk. Why are you telling a woman the insecurities you have about your body, about your height, about your weight, about your money, about whatever? I get that you're wanting to be a guy that is completely honest and open about your feelings and blah, blah, blah. But guys have bought into this lie that telling women about your vulnerabilities and your insecurities is like a way to bond and connect with a woman. And what it can actually do is A, be used against you later, and also make you appear weak. Because for women, it's like this, like they already have their own level of insecurities and stuff like that. And they need to get over that stuff also, but most likely they're not going to. Women will forever be thinking about how they look in comparison to other women, and how, if they're good enough, hostess for a house party, or if they're dressing up the right way when they go out in comparison to other women. So to them, they live in the world of constantly being insecure. So subconsciously, they view that as feminine behavior. So when you come to them, so I just want you to know about an insecurity I have about my height and about my weight. No, I feel this kind of way sometimes. Like, to them, that looks like feminine behavior. Yeah, they're going to probably joke you about it. I'm not saying it's right or fair, but I'm saying realistically, I don't need you to think or feel that you bonding with this woman means you got to go out and tell her all the things that you think are wrong with you. You should be appearing and legitimately becoming a confident guy that doesn't let those things bother them. Because I have guy friends that are 5'5", 5'6", that are dating tall ass women, and they never make it an issue. Why? Because he doesn't make it an issue. But if you start voicing those things, then she's going to know that that's the thing that you have an insecurity about. And oh my God. And I just say, get over it. And I'm sorry if that sounds cool. I just know I'm a 5'9.5" guy. I've dated women that were slightly taller than me. It was never an issue because, again, I never brought it up. Those women would still wear heels around me when we went out and had a good time, and we'd make occasional jokes in there. Oh, you're taller. But it was never a thing that bugged me. And it's because, again, I learned to just let a lot of things just not be a thing. And this guy making his height a thing. But again, why would he tell her if that was a thing? Like, did he think if I don't tell her about my height, she's going to make jokes about my height? And as far as I know, based on this, I don't think that she's taller than him. So again, this was just a nothing burger. But again, guys have been made to believe we got to be honest about all the things that we doubt about ourselves. Guys, keep it to yourself. Keep it with your guy friends. Keep it with your therapist. Don't tell your woman. Anyway, so he says, I'm a bit insecure about my height. She was a college athlete. So all her previous romances were other college athletes, much taller and fitter than me. And here's the thing too. You guys need to stop comparing her dating past to you. Because you're thinking, because she dated other guys that were taller than me and more athletic, how could she fall for me? Or I'm not really the guy she actually wants. So I'm just going to be on the lookout for other dudes that are taller and more athletic because she's probably going to want them instead. That's the same way that when women, like, let's say I'm dating somebody, right? And they're like, well, I see somebody else that looks pretty. And they're like, oh my God, how could you like her because she's prettier? You think she's prettier than me, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, just there's other women out there that also have a level of pretty that I like. That doesn't mean I'm like feeling some kind of way about you. So yeah, she might have dated other guys that were taller, had more money, had more muscle. That doesn't take away from that you could also be her type. She could have a large variety of types that she would date. But you bring up an insecurity based on, well, I'm only 5'9". She dated a guy that was 6'2". What if the guy that was 6'2" beat her ass? Like, do you think she wants to go back to that guy? So now you're a guy that doesn't beat her up and you're 5'10". I think she's probably going to be fine staying with you. But the point is that those other guys are not in front of you. If you allow those other guys that she dated in her past to live in your head, that's on you, not on her. But then you're going to punish her for the thoughts that you're having and your insecurities that you're having about those other guys. That's not fair. Anyway, he says, one day I made a remark about how some woman on a podcast I heard was talking about how much it sucked to wear heels. And she blurts out of nowhere, quote, I wish I could wear heels more, but I tower over you. Now, I don't know the tonality at which that was said. I have personally heard women in my life say, if I was dating a guy that was shorter than me, I probably wouldn't wear heels. So we have to figure out the context and the tone of this. Reading it, it doesn't sound great. And I'm not saying this was the greatest thing to be said, and I can understand how he would feel a certain way. But let's say whatever tone she said it in, it wasn't a great tone, right? This is a situation where this is going to happen in any relationship. In the beginning, there's going to be times where the person that you're with is going to say a thing or do a thing that they're not aware is actually hurting your feelings. Okay, you have to go with the understanding and grace with the person you're with, that they care about you and they're not out to intentionally hurt you. But in the beginning, they're not going to know all the things that if they say them a certain way are going to hurt your feelings. And so when that happens, what's your part in this? Your part is to say, hey, babe, like, I know you're probably joking. I just noticed that when you said this thing, this is how I felt about it. And so it didn't feel great. So what can we do about that? That's a way that you can address it to her and say you're bothered by it, but you're not telling her, how could you say that? You're a horrible person. You're just trying to hurt me. Because again, that would be a situation where you're putting blame on her as if she was intentionally doing a thing. And in this case, it doesn't sound like she was. And if she cares about you and wants to be with you, then you just have to simply voice, hey, this thing happened. I didn't appreciate it. So can we change that behavior? But he didn't do that. He heard the comment. It bothered him. And he let it slide. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Another example is that my hairline is receding. It doesn't bother me much anymore. I mean, clearly it does because he's bringing it up, but I definitely don't love it. And she knows I don't love my hair. Why does she know that? Quit voicing these things to women. One day, I come into the office after getting a haircut. She asks if I got one. I say yes, and she doesn't say anything more about it. No compliment or anything. And you know what's funny? What he's doing right now is what guys get mad when women do, which is he has a narrative going in his head and thoughts going on his head about actions that she should be doing. Like when I get a haircut, she should want to make a comment about my hair. She should want to say some things that are going to be positive. And then when she doesn't, he's like, why isn't she saying a thing? Or why is she making fun of my hairline? And so he's got this whole story going on in his head about how she doesn't appreciate his hair and about how she doesn't like his hair, this and that. And yet none of that's being said. None of that's being told like, hey, so is that a dig at my hairline? Look, what's up, right? And so again, meanwhile, so he says a few minutes later, she randomly comments on how good one of our male coworkers' hair looks today right in front of me. So needless to say, that hit a core nerve and that hurt his feelings. Now, by the way, I don't want you guys to, I know listening to me now, you might think I'm saying two different things that are opposed to each other. Because I'm saying on one hand, like, don't let women know that certain things bother you. But then I'm also doing a show where I'm talking about, by the way, if she's doing these things, you can mention how they bother you. And so this is in reference to like, what I'm saying is he's voicing insecurities he's having. I'd say I wouldn't voice those in particular. But if she's saying things that are hitting him at a level he didn't think they would hit him, then yeah, it's perfectly fine to say, hey, I noticed that when you didn't compliment me on my hair, I felt some kind of way about that. Or when you said something about this other guy's hair, I kind of wondered like why you were complimenting another dude. I felt some kind of way about that. Like, that's fine to have in the context of these things are being said that make you feel a certain way. You having these random body insecurities, you need to figure out how to get over that because nobody wants to hear that stuff and nobody's going to really care in the long run about those things about you. Again, I hate to say it, but it's totally true. So he says, this is getting long, so I'll cut to the chase. I dealt with comments like these every week or two for more or less the whole relationship. So again, he's been dating her for 2 years. She's been dropping neg hit after neg hit after neg hit. And in no time did he mention anything. Now, I'll get to another point I'm going to make later on. So he says, until a few weeks ago, he said, I finally broke and told her the constant needling about my height, my weight, my job performance, etc., has destroyed my confidence entirely. I'm successful. He says he went from intern to executive at his company in 5 years, making 6 figures. He says, I have a good social life. I'm popular, have gotten in better shape lately. I should feel like I'm killing it, but she makes me feel like crap. So that's the part I need you guys to grab onto, right? The part where he says, she makes me feel like crap. No, 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 no. You decided that the things she was saying and doing were going to make you feel a certain way. Now, you might think that's unfair. You might think, but I'm in a partnership and shouldn't she be saying nice things? Yes, she should. But the point I'm making is that you cannot allow another person to control how you feel. But if you are around somebody that you care about and you notice they're saying things that make you feel a certain way, it's also your job to point out to them, hey, you said this thing and I don't like that because it makes me feel this way. And so I don't want to feel this way. We need to figure out how to change this dynamic. You can do that because then that's you taking control of this other person in your life not saying things that's going to keep you continuing to feel a certain way. But ultimately, you're in control of that. So if you decided to go for 2 years and not ever bring up that a woman was saying something that was hurting your feelings, you made that choice. And I know you're thinking, but again, she should have known. This goes back to you need to get the word should out of your vocabulary. The reality is people only know how to treat you based on what you're saying is okay and not okay. So for 2 years, you weren't saying, I don't appreciate these neg hits, then she might think it's part of the dynamic. He said earlier, they both came from crappy relationships. For all we know, she could have grown up in a family or been in a previous situation whereby doing neg hits on each other was just the norm. I've seen plenty of families where they're constantly doing sarcastic jokes at each other, and that's how they bond. The problem is those people get into relationships and do the same thing, and then the partner thinks they're being insulted all the time. And so it could be something as simple as she needs to be aware, hey, like maybe your family is cool with neg hits, previous guys you dated were cool with neg hits and sarcasm. I'm not that guy. But she never got that intel. So I can only blame her so much, but I don't know her whole backstory. I know his story is that she was saying these things and at no time did he bring it up. How else is she supposed to know? And it's funny because guys get mad about to women when they do the same thing. We get mad all the time. A woman thought I should have done X, Y, and Z, but she never told me, yeah, guy, we're not in each other's heads. So you can't expect her to know that the things that she's saying are hurting her feelings. To you, it appears that it should be obvious, but that doesn't mean that it's obvious. As my mom always said, common sense isn't always common. The thing that you think is common sense, because that person could just be jokes and just having fun. And so you got to let them know, no, I don't joke that way. I don't like those kind of comments. If you didn't do that, that's partly on you. So anyway, he says, so he told her that she makes him feel like crap. What was her response? Since then, she's totally apologetic. She said she had no idea what she was doing to me. She said her main focus after college was finding a husband and becoming a mother, and she was 100% sure that was me. But moving to the big city and getting caught up in her job and working for our boss changed her and made her into a bad partner. That's what she said. She didn't notice what she didn't do. She didn't go at him and say, well, I mean, you say that I'm hurting your feelings like this. But what about that time you did X, Y, and Z? Or, well, you should just be able to suck it up because I'm just joking and you should know, blah, blah. Like, there are plenty of women that would have reacted just like that. But what does she do the first time he speaks about this? She says, my bad. I didn't know. I didn't know the comments I was saying was like that. You know what? I am willing to change that around. And then as a result of that, he says, she now showers me with praise, hasn't said a crossword in weeks, is suddenly all over me for hookups, and is totally submissive in conversation. So because he was able to stand up and create a boundary for the relationship, she respected him. And she said, that's a perfectly understandable boundary. I was in the wrong. My bad. Let me turn this whole ship around, right? And at that point, he should be like happy about that. He should be happy. I got a girl that's listening. But what happens instead? He says, it seems totally genuine on her end. She's cried a lot, and I believe her that she wants to change and didn't want to hurt me. The problem is I'm numb to all of it now. The compliments feel empty. She's very attractive, but my hookup drive is almost zero with her because I don't feel desirable. She's totally nice to me, but I don't really feel like it's because I earned it. Oh my God, he's a martyr. To complicate things, this change coincided with the aforementioned, she said that she had, in the previous paragraph, he said she got hired by my company about 6 months into our relationship. Everyone knows, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so he says this change coincides with the aforementioned boss leaving the company, and I can't help but feel inferior with her saying that part of her epiphany was this other man she loved working for leaving. I questioned how much she changed for me and how much was because he left, and that freed up so much of her energy. So basically the boss left, which freed her up to spend more time with him, and now he's like jealous about it and think that it's unearned and that he doesn't deserve any of it. And so this is where we get into your self-esteem is going to play a major part in what you feel you actually do or do not deserve, because he wanted a girlfriend that was going to treat him with respect, talk to him the right way, want to hook up with him and be there for him. And now she's becoming that person. But even then, if he doesn't feel like he's actually deserving of that, what he's going to do is he's going to start to create scenarios where the things that he's getting from her now, they're not earned. She doesn't really want to do them. Oh, it's because this other guy left the company. It has nothing to do with me. So see, I'm still the victim and blah, 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 right? And you got to get out of that mentality. The reality is he's with a woman that was messing up. And when he brought it to her attention, she said, you're right. I'm messing up. I care for you so much. Let me change that up. And you got to understand, guys, at the point that a woman does this, she's not trying to do that as a temporary thing. Women who love you, when you point out to them some blind spots that they had that they weren't aware of, they're willing to fix them because they want to keep you around. They're not doing it just to have it be for a limited time or just because she fears being alone and you're the only option around, so I might as well change for this guy. They're doing that because they have a high interest, and when they learn that they're making a mistake, they want to fix it. I've dated women where early on we might be out with, say, for example, my thing for example was this, like, right, like, because again, I got bullied in 6th grade. So my thing is like, I don't like when my partner is making jokes at my expense. And sometimes there have been times where I'll be dating a girl, for example, and let's say like we're out with friends, right? You know, my friends will do a little ribbing here or there, and I'm not the biggest fan of that, but I'm not dating them. So it's like, okay, ha, 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 ha. There have been times where I've dated people that they think they are comfortable enough with me to where they can jump in on that. And so they might do a little rib of their own. And I'm not a person that argues in public. I don't believe in embarrassing your significant other in public. So I'll take note of that. And then like on the drive home or later that night, I'll be like, hey, so just so you know, like, this is going to probably sound like completely dumb, but when we were at this party or this thing earlier and my friend said this thing and then you kind of got in on the ribbing, like, I just know I feel a kind of way about my partner taking digs at me. And I always say this, I don't think you did it intentionally to hurt my feelings because you did not know. I just know that when that happened, I noticed that I felt a certain way about it and it didn't feel good. So what can we do about that going forward? That way, I'm not accusing them. I'm not saying you intentionally tried to hurt me. I'm doing the whole like when this happened, this is how I took it. I'm taking ownership of, I felt this certain way when this action happened. And so I don't want that action to happen. I'm assuming on good faith that you as my partner don't want me to feel a certain way. So that's why I'm bringing it to your attention. And when that's happened, the girls I've dated have been like, oh, I didn't know this. I'm so sorry. That's my bad. Okay. You know, I'll make a point. And then they don't do it anymore because I bring it up when it first happens. But if you wait until like the 10th or 11th time, or you wait 2 years, now it's a habit. So now even you aren't going to be able to convince yourself that she doesn't want to do that because she's been doing it nonstop, but that's because you didn't put a stop to it. And what women are looking for from their guys is he going to come in and let me know the parameters of what I can or cannot do? What are the boundaries? What are the things I can say and not say? What are the actions I can do and not do? And I know in this day and age, guys get kind of hesitant about that because it gets viewed as controlling and trying to make her do things and controlling and it's not toxic at all. But the reality is women want to know your boundaries. So they ideally, if you have a good partner, they know not to cross them. And if they're trying to keep good feelings up, they know what areas not to go into if they want to keep a positive relationship with you. But he didn't do that. So now he's like, this girl, she probably doesn't want to do it for real. And she just whatever. And he's all in his head about this, her changes not being authentic. I feel that they actually are, but again, because he let this go on for 2 years, he has not been able to convince himself that she would actually make the changes. If he had brought this up the first time it happened, he would have been able to see that she was willing to change. She wouldn't have done the behavior anymore, and he'd be like, oh, that was easy. And then it would have been easier for him to bring up things going forward. But I get it also that a lot of guys, unfortunately, do not have the tools to do that kind of conflict resolution because, you know, we get in our feelings. We just take everything as an attack. Anything our partner says or does to us that's not pleasing, we assume they're intentionally trying to hurt us. And then on the off chance that we recognize they're not, we don't know how to come to them and open up a conversation and a dialogue that's going to be able to allow us to get our thoughts and feelings out without breaking down and crying, without sounding too feminine, but still being able to get the results that we want. And guess what, guys? I got a whole video in the Get Girls Academy that talks about conflict resolution, how to bring things up, how to say things, how to do it in a way that keeps you in your masculine. It doesn't make you look whiny or simpish, but still allows her to feel like, yeah, she needs to make some changes if she wants to keep you. But I digress. So he says, essentially, I feel like a Make-A-Wish kid in my own relationship. She begged me not to leave her and give her another chance, but the spark is gone to me and my heart isn't in it. I don't know what to do. Part of me feels like the relationship is dead. I should do both of us a favor and break it off. The other part says, I was overreacting to the insults the whole time, you were, and she deserves a second chance. But even if I intellectually believe that, my heart feels closed off. I don't know what to do. Well, suffice to say, in terms of this guy, like, yeah, he feels, it's not that he necessarily overreacted, it's that he waited so long that when he decided to say something, that's when the overreaction comes. If he had just brought up on day one, hey, so when you said this thing, this is how I took it. I'm not trying to be a killjoy here. I just observing how I felt about it. And so I wanted to address that, you know? And then here's the thing too, guys. You want to bring this stuff up early on to really be able to determine the kind of woman you're with. Because like I said, let's say he had brought this up 2 years ago. He would have found out 2 years ago that he's with the kind of woman that is actually willing to take ownership and responsibility for when she hurts his feelings and is able to say, I did something wrong, and is willing to fix the behavior if it's for the betterment of the relationship. And that's the kind of women we want. On the other hand, if he had brought this up early, maybe he'd have found out he was with a girl that's one of those girls that's like, it's always the guy's fault, and then you blaming me is going to make me cry about things and put this on you, in which case he would have known, oh, I have an emotional manipulator on my hands. I'm glad I'm finding this out now. I got a jet ski. But guys get so worried about not being able to find somebody else that part of what we do is we try to keep the peace. And so keeping the peace, part of that means not bringing up situations where our feelings are hurt. And that still ends up being to the detriment, because all you do is build resentment for that person to where you end up doing like this guy did 2 years later, blowing up at her and being like, oh, as if she intended to do this the whole time, when the reality is she wouldn't have done that the whole time if you had just brought it up when it first happened. So I hope this is a lesson to you guys about, when things come up in a relationship, they're going to. When you're in a long-term relationship, even if you've been with somebody 5-10 years, they're going to be that one day they come home and they're in a bad mood. They say the wrong thing. They do the wrong thing. They accidentally break something that was precious to you. They lose a thing. Like, a number of things are going to happen. It behooves you to start understanding that having conflict is not a bad thing. And I know for guys, it's hard because we don't like dealing with a variety of emotions, whereas women are great with it. But the sooner you're able to start getting better at conflict resolution and knowing how to introduce those things and say them in the way that is positive and beneficial and masculine and get your point across, then you're going to be able to keep women long term, and you won't be building up resentment for years on into a woman because she's doing things that you don't like, and she has no idea what's going on because you won't voice it, So hopefully this helps some of you guys out in case you get into those kind of situations. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I have for today. So thank you guys for watching this episode of Harry Dating Convos. If you're listening to the podcast, you can go to youtube.com/Harry Wilmington to catch the live shows. I do them throughout the course of the week. Also, you guys can join the Get Girls Academy because I do personalized group coaching sessions in the academy where you can come through, ask me a variety of questions about situations you're going through, and I can help you in real time, as well as having other guys there that can give their insights into your situation. All right. And if you guys have any questions you want me to answer on one of these shows, you can write to me at harrywilmington@gmail.com. And you can also leave comments under any of my videos. I go through them quite frequently to be able to get questions to answer on these shows. So with that said, guys, I bid you all adieu. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace. Hey there, thanks for tuning in to Harry Dating Convos. Don't forget to visit harrywilmington.com to download my free ebook, Texting Women Like a Boss. And while you're there, if you're ready to take things to the next level with your dating life, check out the Get Girls Academy membership program for exclusive strategies and live coaching. Go to harrywilmington.com to learn more and join today. Lastly, if you've got a question you'd like answered on one of these shows, leave a comment below or write me at harrywilmington@gmail.com. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.